my fellow violinists. If you find your fingers moving slower than a slug in molasses, keep watching to learn the #1 violin exercise for faster fingers that I've used for over 25 years. First, let's address the problem you may have, which is twofold. Your fingers don't know where they're going, and your left and right hand aren't coordinated with each other. Either of these will slow you down, but both are deadly if you ever want to sound like this guy. Okay, so maybe you don't want to sound exactly like him, since we also want to play accurately. Here's how you start. Pick a short portion of a passage you're having trouble with. I'm working on the opening run from Wieniawski's Theme and Variations, which looks like this, so you can follow along. The first thing I do is I circle the shifts in the passage so I can practice all of the shifts in a row and get that out of the way. And when I'm done here, I hope it's going to sound a little bit like this. So now I'm going to do what I call the first layer of practice, and the first layer here is shifting. This helps your arm and fingers feel exactly where they're supposed to go, and through repetition, it'll start to feel comfortable. I usually do that probably 40 to 50 times, but because you don't want to watch me do that 50 times, we're going to move on to the next shift. Can you do that probably 30 to 40 times? Move on to the next shift. Now I practice that shift faster. All right, so in a passage like this, it would take me generally about 5 to 7 minutes to handle these 3 shifts. Now that I have that finished, I'm going to move on to the second layer, which is the intonation layer, and it sounds like this. You start with the first note of the passage. I like to tune it with the nearest open string to make sure it's perfectly in tune. Once it's in tune, you move on to the next note. Now, G sharp. Now I threw that B a little low. Again, once it's in tune, we hold it. Keep going through the passage. Tuning it with the open A now. So we know this is out of tune. That's a minor second, so that's pretty tricky to hear if that's in tune or not. A much easier interval to hear is an octave. Now listen to what that sounds like if it's out of tune. So we bring it up. You want to hear those sound waves in sync with each other. We continue on. because we're getting rid of the fingers from being thrown in the wrong places. We're reforming good habits. So I went through that a bit fast, but on your own, you can take any passage you're doing and tune it that way. If you don't want to use a tuner, you can use the nearest open string. And you're going to hold each note for about 15, 20 seconds in tune before you move on to the next one. Now, the third layer is called martelet, which means hammered in French, and it sounds like this. Almost like you're throwing a hammer, you're going to throw your arm. And if you watch what's happening in the left hand, I am preparing for the next note as early as I can. So as soon as I finish one note, I'm already in position for the following note. Boom, there for the G sharp. You want to take plenty of time in between these notes so you can think about relaxing. You think about your bow angles. You want to think about, is my left hand ready to go? Are my fingers where they're supposed to be? It's a little sharp. Sometimes I'll go back to a different layer if there's a problem, like I missed that shift, so I'm going to play this shift a couple times. Now we do rhythm martelets, and we're going to do these in duples. So this is where you pair it up. This is where you play the first note fast and the second note slow. I missed that shift. And what this does is it prepares it, it gives your fingers time to think about what's next, but also gets them ready to have to move quickly. Now we reverse. The first note is slow. So I missed that, a little out of tune. It's a little closer than I felt like. Okay. Now I won't show you this whole passage, but you could also do it in triples. So it would sound like this. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like that, and you reverse, and then you can switch up those rhythms. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and those are the notes that are the slow ones, are the ones that you hang on. So it's important to know that throughout martelet, the entire layer, I am throwing the arm without squeezing anywhere. At this point, we're ready to work things up to speed with a metronome in our détaché strokes. Détaché just means separate bow strokes. It's the most common stroke we'll do when we play violin. I like to use small bows because these notes are going to be flying by really fast, so you don't need a bunch of bow for each note. You want to get your fingers prepared to be playing these with only a teeny little amount of bow that you need. I'm going to start at 60 beats per minute. So after I would have played that 3 times fast, I kick it up maybe 2 BPM. Right there, that scratch, I got too close to the bridge. Up to 136 now. I'm going to make sure that my arm weight is resting the entire time. Sometimes we like to bring the weight of the bow out, which we don't want to do for a passage like this. We've got to keep the arm weight in the entire time. Now we're going to do 2 notes per beat. You can go up as fast as you want. I generally don't go any faster than what I can play 3 times perfectly. So if I start messing up at a tempo, I bring it down a couple of clicks. I'm also adding more notes within the slurs to prepare for the really long, I mean, almost this entire run is within a slur. Okay, 188. Really, when I play this musically, by the time it's finished, I'm going to slow down at the very top to really give it some extra emphasis because it's so cool that we're up there. Let's make a big deal out of being on top of the mountain. Realize I've really got to save my bow to get all of those notes in, so I'm going to slow my bow speed down. I'm going to turn the metronome off now. All right, so it's not perfect, but it's going to take a run like that. It's going to take you probably 4 or 5 days to really get that solid. I would say I'm probably 80% of the way there. So if you take any run that you do, apply those layers. So you start with circling the shift, and then you do your intonation layer, and then you do a martelé layer, then you do the détaché layer, and then you work it up to speed with the metronome. On day 1, you'll make a ton of progress. And the next day, you'll forget a little bit of it, but it's going to come back a lot faster than it was day 1. I would say by day 4 or 5, you're going to be flying along. If you do this for 10 to 15 minutes per day on any passage, you're going to see a huge increase in speed, dexterity, and accuracy. This is one of the concepts that I teach in my course, Violin Jumpstart, which you can pick up by clicking on the link in my description, and let me know how you like it. Until then, keep practicing perfectly. See you later.